All right, and we've still got more music rolling. How about that intro? My name's TJ. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the largest and greatest crypto community in all the interwebs. My name's TJ from Hit Network. I'll be your host today. J-Chains did a great job on Friday. I heard that was a really awesome show, everybody. Naomi Brockwell brought the fire. Had a lot of fun. We're going to be having her back on the show again. But today, we're joined by some new faces and familiar faces. We've got a big fan of the channel, big friend of the channel, Josh from CryptoBusy, and Tom joining us here today. Going to be talking from CryptoBusy. CryptoWendyO, back fresh from vacation, going to be joining us today. Arcane Bear, staying dry in Costa Rica down there, trying to avoid the rainy season, but with us here today. And fresh to go on vacation very soon here, headed over to Disneyland, BitBoy Crypto. Don't call him Goofy. He is the man, the myth, the legend that is BitBoy Crypto. So,
Gooby, please. Gooby, please.
Gooby, please. Yeah, we're going to be talking. We got a really good show today. Going to be talking about green candles everywhere for Ethereum. We've got Jack Dorsey's big new purchase in the house today, as well as NFT mania. Everybody going crazy over the weekends, buying up CryptoPunks and any NFT you could imagine. Anybody, I think that was an NFT holdout, seems like they jumped on the bandwagon this weekend and saying, okay, NFTs are here to stay. I can't hold out any longer. So real quick, if you've never seen the show before, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner of each guest box, there is a score box. If you like what you're hearing from any of them, drop a +1 in the chat. I'll know to give them a point. Whoever has the most points at the end of the show will have 30 seconds to leave a parting message with the audience. And as always, the links are in the description to all of these guest channels, so please go check them out. They make really good content. Show them that BitSquad love. They all deserve a sub. They all deserve a lot of likes. They are great channels, so go check them out. Real quick, we're going to jump into a market watch. We've got Bitcoin breaking down a little bit over the weekend, had a nice strong weekend pump. I think it hit as high as 42.5, pulled back down under 40, so it's down on the 24-hour today, about kind of where we ended on Friday. We've got Anchor and Thorchain up a little bit. We did talk about Rune having another potential bounce back after those big hacks, so we did see some really strong action there. But the talk of the town, the thing everybody's interested in, Ethereum. We've got the hard fork coming later this week. We've got 10 consecutive green candles in a row, looking really, really strong. So, Ben, start us off real quick. What is it that gets you most excited about Ethereum right now today?
Well, the sentiment is back. I mean, the positive sentiment for Ethereum is here. And actually, if you look at what's going on with Bitcoin right now, with this pullback, what we've experienced today, this is, and I've said this for a few days now, we're not seeing a lot of manipulation. We saw a little bit early yesterday morning. Outside of that is just natural market moves that we're seeing. I mean, if you guys remember, Bitcoin's volatile. That's a thing. It's not always manipulated up or down. There is retail sentiment that drives things. So what you're seeing right now with the drop in the Bitcoin price and the drop in the Bitcoin specific volume is really a reflection of the excitement going on with Ethereum right now. And we've talked, so much. We talked ad nauseum, about, this London hard fork and what this means and how exciting it is. And people are finally starting to buy into that. I mean, right now we're still at 2,600 for ETH, even with this pullback to Bitcoin. And that's really what we were seeing in the end of the April run up when we led into the crash in May, is that Ethereum was moving independent of Bitcoin. This is what we want. This is the health of the market. This is the number one thing the maxis do not want. The Bitcoin maximalists want to be where only Bitcoin drives the market. But for the rest of the market, what a terrible thing. And so that's what's got me excited about Ethereum, is looking and seeing how excited everybody is about it, seeing the positive sentiment, but then thinking about the repercussions of what we could see if Ethereum is able to, decouple from Bitcoin or flipping it by the end of this year.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, we have a guest here in the studio trying to make an appearance. She loves the spotlight probably more than I do. Little Ada jumping up here. But
is she bullish on Ethereum?
She's actually stronger on ADA. She's a Cardano fan, so she says she doesn't look as Ethereum as competition. She looks more at like Google and Amazon as competition. So.
Oh wow.
That's a Husky comment there. But I wanted to come to CryptoBusy with this one. Last time we saw this many consecutive days of green candles in a row for Ethereum was actually back in 2018 when it was breaking its all-time high previously. Now, that was the end and kind of the top of the altcoin cycle. Is there any concern in your mind that we might be topping out right now?
Not for the altcoins. I don't think we're topping out at all. Actually, I think we've got quite a way to go still. I think Bitcoin, as you know, Ben just mentioned, is having a nice little pullback. That's healthy. That needs to happen after we saw a bit quick burst overnight, pretty much from 34,000 upwards. So I think it's now Ethereum's time to shine, and I think that's actually, you know, that still means there's a lot more in store for other altcoins. Considering now Ethereum's having its go, people will probably be pulling out profits in a little bit, putting them into altcoins. So we'll probably see that happen very, very soon. I'm just going to bring up a chart here, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I'm just going to show you guys what we've been doing. So we've actually seen a lot of this come in on the CryptoBusy channel. We use smart money as a trading strategy. And essentially this arrow was drawn far, far away a long time ago. And you can see here the amount of blue candles in this case is great to see. Now, I am expecting a little bit of a pullback. I do see us probably just for health reasons coming back to around here, $2,300 to $2,400. There's a healthy level of support and resistance there. That makes sense to me. Now, we do have a lot of liquidity. And for those of you that maybe aren't aware in the comments or whatever, that is when you have double tops, double or triple tops, or a lot of where orders are. And that is where liquidity forms up. And that is where price needs to go to take that liquidity and move further. So we have liquidity up here. And I still believe that price needs to move in that direction. So I still believe that we are going to take out this liquidity at $3,000 and move towards this next area of supply, which will be about $3,200 to $3,500. So that's really what I'm watching. I do think we'll see quite a nice just straight run up to that level. However, if we do have a pullback, I don't think it'll be major. And I do think it will be from around 2,400, 2,300 as a quick pit stop before moving on. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that breakdown. I'm curious to hear from Wendy or Arcane Bear if you have somewhat of a different analysis there, or if you would agree, you know, you're expecting pretty straight upward action as well for Ethereum, or do you think is there a bearish scenario out there for Ethereum right now from one of you guys as far as you know?
Go for it, Wendy.
Do you want to go first, Gio?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, here we go. So I've been I'd like to go over something kind of fun that we dipped into the last time we were here, and I'll bring Ben back to when we were talking about Bitcoin. And I said there was a potential for like a $23,000 quick downside to the spring. One of the reasons why you're talking about that was actually because of these different styles of accumulation schematics you look at from the Wyckoff trading ranges. So this was drawn by one of our private members who did see the falling wedge a little bit clearer than I did. I had it drawn in, but I still thought we might see further downside. But when you look at Ethereum, you're actually seeing another really unique type of accumulation schematic. So reaccumulation, where you have a really sharp blow off top. And what we did this last weekend effectively was move what's called above the creek, or above the top line of resistance. So over the next week, I suspect we'll go up to around $2,800, $2,900 for Ethereum, find some resistance within that area. It's usually a fairly, like a little bit of depth between 3,200 and 2,800 as well. So I suspect that, here, one more, just another way to look at it. Yeah. So I suspect that what we'll end up getting, and now I wasn't feeling bullish about Ethereum up until we had this big move, which kind of changed our thesis. Now, effectively, I think day over day, you should just be buying, but I believe, or month over month, whatever fits your budget. I think this area, though, will be a big teller that will probably bounce around between 3,000, 2,700, and then continue to move upwards. There's a lot more room for growth in here. So I don't think that these markets are entirely isolated either. I commonly try to look at what's going on in the traditional markets as well to get a grasp. And we've seen bullish momentum in the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all touched in new all-time highs this week. There was weakness in the DXY, or the dollar, as well. So those all bode well for our rather volatile sector this week.
Yeah, that was a really good analysis there, and I'm curious to hear from some of you guys too if you think we're going to have a decoupling here, or what happens with Bitcoin will be what reflects the Ethereum price action, or if you think Ethereum can move on its own. Wendy, do you think Ethereum has what it takes to decouple from Bitcoin, or are we still just following the Bitcoin price dictates the Ethereum price?
You know what, at this time, just the way Ethereum has kind of held up over everything, the fact that the ecosystem has expanded so much. I mean, it is still expensive to use Ethereum, but at the same time, we have NFTs, we have a lot of these blockchain games. We have so many projects kind of relying on Ethereum to sustain and for the upgrade. I think that we are going to see Ethereum decouple from Bitcoin, which kind of is a little bit crazy if you think about it, because for so long we have seen Bitcoin Litecoin and Ethereum kind of all follow the same pattern, with Bitcoin, with Queen Bee leading the way. And, you know, kind of to go back to what CryptoBusy said, I think we do have a pullback. That area kind of lines up perfectly with the EMAs, with the EMA 30 and the SMA 20. If we were to get that pullback to approximately 22 to 23, I agree with everything that BitBoy said. And I also, what Tio said, as far as his chart goes, I was feeling the same way. I wasn't super bullish on Ethereum just because of the way everything was going with the market with Bitcoin, but kind of just seeing that beautiful move upward, seeing the wick off, seeing all of that, it just looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks kind of, it even looks sustainable, which is a little crazy for me to say because I'm so conservative. But I really feel that Ethereum is going to, as far as percentage wise, is going to outperform Bitcoin. And it's a good thing that we're having Bitcoin and Ethereum become decoupled, because they both do, they're both equally great, but they're good at different things. Bitcoin for the store of value and Ethereum for the smart contracts and building.
Yeah, totally. And then real quick, we've got a couple of chats here. One, somebody in the Twitch chat asked if we could all talk in the same accent as CryptoBusy. That'd be great. They said thanks. But then also real quick, Crypto Ric Flair said smash those likes. We've got about 4,500 people watching right now. If we could get up to 3,500 likes by the end of the show, I think we can do that, no problem. So if you are watching, if you take a quick second, smash that like button. It's the best way to help the channel and help the entire crypto space grow, help people learn about Bitcoin and how to change their lives, which is why we all do this every day. So beyond our Ethereum and Bitcoin, we've got a big purchase from Jack Dorsey where they acquired Afterpay, which is the leading buy now, pay later type platform. I know it used to be called Layaway when I was a kid, but now they've got platforms like this where you can kind of defer the payment until a later date. So I think there's some other technical upgrades that they're going to be doing with incorporating it with Square, allowing people to buy Bitcoin through it. But I don't think, we were talking a little bit on the morning stream, this isn't just about acquiring the 7 million users on Afterpay. I think it's about taking Afterpay and joining that up with what you can already do in Square and Bitcoin and make more Bitcoin transactions possible. So, Ben, why is there a need for platforms that allow you to buy now, pay later? Like, why wouldn't somebody just use a credit card, in your opinion?
Well, not everybody can get approved for a credit card. Not everybody wants credit cards, I guess. That'd be a good way to say it. But I think looking at this, I think it just, I don't know, it just screams about the I want it now culture. Yeah. You know, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to get behind this, honestly. Like, I'm sitting here looking like, okay, so you can shop at places online. I mean, just so everybody knows, like, I'll share my screen, like, because I'm checking out the Afterpay site right now. So here it is. Shop now, pay over 6 weeks, never pay interest. And I don't know, it just seems like really desperate for me for places to want to sell things and desperate for people to want to buy things. You want to buy some $69 shoes? Heck, pay, I don't know what that would be, $70, $17.50 a week for 4 weeks and pay off the shoes. If you gotta separate shoes into 4 payments, I'm just gonna be honest with you, you should consider making your shoes last longer. You know, I mean, to me, it's just kind of insane to think that we're at this point in our culture where you have to make payments on a pair of shoes. But look, this is something that's, I mean, I sound probably like old man yelling at the sky right now with that stuff. People want things and they want it now, and this enables them to do it. So
let me ask you this. Do you think it lends itself to that great reset type mentality of you own nothing, you rent everything, but you're still happy? Like, do you think this is part of that or totally unrelated?
I don't know. Maybe it's kind of like trying to make that transition easier. I can kind of see that, but at the same time, like, you still own the stuff when you buy it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. What do you think the connection is there? I'm going to host a show now.
Oh, I'm not really sure. I was, my one thought is, do you think they're going to allow Bitcoin payments on credit, more or less? Like, they'll allow people to go into debt to buy Bitcoin with this Afterpay program because they're saying they're going to fuse it up with what you can do on the
sure.
Cash App?
Yeah, the top of the market. At the top of the market, they'll probably let people do that.
Which is a little scary. Like, these are top-ish kind of
very
signals.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I get so many people all the time that ask me, like, should I take loans to buy crypto? No, it's never a good idea to take out loans. I don't care how sure you think things are going to be. The fact is, this is the horror stories. The biggest horror stories from 2017 came from people that took $100,000 loans to buy crypto. And then their crypto dropped 90%, and they didn't have the money to pay off the loans. They didn't have enough money for the interest, and they lost all the money and they had nothing. Now, if they were able to hold through 4 years, they're probably back to even. But most of those people had to sell everything to try to pay back the loans.
Right.
So it's just a very concerning thing. You should not be taking loans to buy crypto. This is something we tell everybody who asks. It's never a good idea. It sounds like in theory, like, hey, we know where the market's going. Like, it sounds good. But really the best time to do that would be in the depth of the bear market when nobody would want to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then I'm going to come to CryptoBusy with this one, because another kind of angle of play that could be done here is they're saying part of what Square was interested in with the acquisition was the merchant system. So right now on Square, all you can do is buy and sell Bitcoin, but you can't necessarily buy and sell goods for any payment method. So do you think there could be an angle here where they're going to take that marketplace, and then Twitter will basically, right now, like if you look at Facebook, you look at Instagram, other big social platforms, they have a marketplace integration where you can buy and sell goods on there. Do you think this is Twitter's play to try to incorporate a shopping aspect to Twitter that would also allow Bitcoin purchases?
I mean, it definitely could be. As you said, we've got Facebook Marketplace, for example, which is huge for buying and selling goods. We may see that as an angle. I mean, if we look at Square in the past, I mean, Jack Dorsey's obviously already been an advocate of Bitcoin for a while, and Square has already talked about, their company coming up with a DeFi-centered company that is looking to kind of act on Bitcoin as well. So I think it might be that, but also I think it is for the most part, probably just furthering that Bitcoin agenda, furthering, backing behind Bitcoin. And, with Square in general, that's a new 7 million users or so coming on board, potentially allowing to get into Bitcoin. And not to go too off topic on a tangent, but we saw with JP Morgan recently, for example, allowing clients to buy Bitcoin. That's another kind of a gateway to buy crypto. And the more gateways we see with crypto, the more the price will most likely increase, especially the volume, right? And that is the volume we need to increase for the price to increase most likely. So I think it is a good thing from that sense. And I think, we will see potentially more users now using it because Bitcoin is available there. But then, as Ben was mentioning, with double-edged sword, do you really want to be going into debt to buy Bitcoin, or do you really want to go into debt with Bitcoin? Because the whole point of cryptocurrency is to be financially free, is to have that, freedom over your own finance or whatever. And if you're going into debt to have that, is that really kind of against the whole point of Bitcoin in the first place? So,
yeah, no, that was a great point. And like you said, if the whole purpose of all this is financial freedom, so if you're going into debt, and that's kind of the same thing Ben was alluding to, it's like if you're chasing it, if you're trying to get it fast, it's usually not going to work out. Like most of the time, it takes going through a cycle. It takes 3 or 4 years. And for anybody who's investing, if you invest for 3 or 4 years and are able to achieve financial freedom, that's an insanely fast amount of time to get those level of returns compared to traditional investing. Most of the time, people are talking 20, 30, 40 years of investing. So
let me say this, DJ, real quick. I do want to make this point because I know what you were trying to say earlier when you're talking about the Great Reset, and like what more is there to this? Like, is there another angle to what is being done here with this? And something to think about is, what have we been talking about over the last few weeks, or about the last month, is coming in the fall? We've been talking about how the narrative's inflation and we're switching to deflation.
Right.
When you're in deflation, there's less money to go around.
Great point. And
so this could be something that's preparing for that, where there will be less money. This isn't right now. People don't need to be using this, but they're probably trying to get ahead of it because this could be something that people will need in the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and something I was going to come kind of a different angle to come to Arcane Bear on with this. I know you've been in the space a long time. You've seen a lot of different things develop. You've seen some of the early companies. We've seen a lot of people make a lot of money with Bitcoin. So do you think we're going to start to see kind of a new trend in VC investing where these companies, they come in, they buy Bitcoin, they get a big run up because of the Bitcoin, because of the PR, because of the marketing around it and the hype, and then they use the money that they made off of Bitcoin to acquire other companies and continue building the hype, continue building that cycle, and then build a whole, kind of like what Coinbase was trying to do or what Facebook did when they were really blowing up. Do you see that trend developing with Bitcoin companies over time?
I've been looking at some of the data, and I think that more than a Bitcoin play, it's definitely a strategic play for Square itself. So one of the things I wanted to share here on this topic, and I think it's kind of fun too, is just looking at the press release that Square shared this morning. First off, they didn't pay cash. What they did was offer the founders stock in Square itself. So the founders of Afterpay actually ended up becoming, let's say, partial owners of Square. And Jack Dorsey is quite altruistic. So you see words here that I think are important to recognize. Square and Afterpay have a shared purpose. We built our businesses to make the financial system more fair, accessible, and inclusive. Now, I 100% agree with Ben. The sentiment around taking out debt for a pair of shoes is kind of silly. But if we continue to read further, Jack quotes this: together we can better connect our Cash App seller ecosystems to deliver more compelling products and services for merchants and consumers. In both of those sentiments, merchants and sellers are actually ahead of the consumer. And when we look at the Afterpay website, let's go sur la table. These are direct conversations with DTC brands and products, right? So sur la table here is a product, or they make cooking glass, and they're now trying to sell through Afterpay. So it looks more of like an Amazon marketplace being integrated into potentially the future of Twitter and Square itself, because Square, if you guys will remember, they were one of the first to offer that credit card through your phone, digital invoicing. They're mostly focused on merchants, and then the consumers were kind of these beneficiary of these easier to use products, like, oh, I'm at a farmer's market and I can use my phone to take a credit card to sell the hummus that I make. I don't know, something I just made all of that up. But I think that his altruistic viewpoint is, how do you connect consumers inside of this ecosystem? And because they offered them not a buyout in cash, but as an ownership in Square, they're looking at it as a much more mutual benefit to each other. Now, this buy now, pay later part of the platform, we could maybe talk about an integration of DeFi, where you could often also be the lender. You could even maybe lend to businesses. We already know that PayPal has a built-in lend function. You can buy now, pay later. There's a bunch of features as a business operator. And PayPal last week came out and said that they were going to start offering lending in their and yield in their future version of their crypto app as well. So the potential for, let's say, a US dollar or a PayPal version of a stable coin, where you can do lending to other customers, to other merchants. You can put money into the merchants. It seems like they're trying to build an altruistic marketplace that would either run on Twitter potentially in the future, but more specifically for Square as an internal partnership, which they'd already highly focused on.
Yeah, no, and it's a good point to remember too. Jack Dorsey's worked at PayPal for a long time, and like this peer-to-peer payments on the internet is something a lot of these guys have been trying to solve for a long time. And then PayPal obviously grew and became a third-party intermediary, and it does solve a need to an extent, but not the way a lot of them first set out to do it. So Square, another online payments method, like you mentioned, has a lot of those great features built in. I do think the marketplace is kind of the major component of it, and you brought up a lot of really good points there, where they are very focused on the vendors, buyers, like the sellers and the creators, which is something that we're really focused on here too. So it will be fun to watch this develop and fun to see how it all continues. And speaking of creators and fun, last topic we're going to talk about here today is NFT weekend mania. But real quick, I did want to mention for all our Twitch people here, we were talking this morning about the emotes, and actually all the emotes had already been done and submitted. We were just waiting to get it back from Yeah. While we were at the gym,
all I know is this:
we got the email from Twitch. I said it was
going to get done, and it got done. That's all I'm saying.
So we were waiting for the Twitch approval. It came through today while we were at the gym. So we should have Twitch emotes either right now, or I don't know if we have to do something in there now that it's been approved. But we've got them. We already made them. We submitted them, so they're done.
I'm actually I'm spamming BitBoys right now.
So BJ said he's
BitSquad.
Oh, look, they're testing it. They're up right now. There's a BitBoy face in the Twitch chat. So there you go.
I promised you this morning, and I always come through on my promises.
Yeah.
I did this for you, BitSquad. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's shift gears into NFTs a little bit. Ben, we know you love NFTs. We know you love gaming. You love nerd stuff. So just real quick for the audience at home, just if they're not familiar with NFTs, they're new to the space, they hear it going crazy, they hear Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher talking about it, they feel like everybody in the world has an NFT right now. So just real quick, what's an NFT?
Well, it's a Pokemon card on steroids. Okay, that's what it is, basically. You talking to me, punk? Look, an NFT stands for non-fungible token, and I actually find myself in situations where I'm explaining this a lot to people in the real world, like whether I'm at the ballpark or I'm at a party, and people are asking what we're doing, and I'd say NFTs, and they're like, "Huh? What's that?" So I find myself explaining this, on a really base level a lot. You have to understand, I think the word non-fungible is like way overkill. An example of one of these words in blockchain that, obviously we didn't make up the word fungibility. It's a property of money, but I feel like we could have came up with a much better word that doesn't sound over everybody's head, like digital collectibles or something like that.
But
collectibles on the blockchain.
But Ben,
yeah.
Why would they use simple terms? Why would anybody make it easy? For anything in crypto and blockchain, the type of verbiage I see consistently is very complicated. And sometimes I'm even catching myself having to Google stuff. And I try to think of it as, okay, when we talk about traditional financial markets and we talk about the laws that come from the SEC, bills being passed, just in general, everything is not in plain verbiage. And it seems to be a really, really, really big problem. If we want mass adoption in crypto, if we want mass adoption with blockchain, I think it's okay to use some of these terms like on light papers and on white papers, on the technical papers, but when we're referring to different products, it makes it really complicated for the average person to understand, especially people that actually could benefit from NFTs. And that's just my opinion.
I mean, I agree with you 1000%. I mean, that's why a lot of the people that don't like my channel or like what we do here, they don't like the fact we make it simple for the everyday person to understand. Like they want it to be complicated. I get so sick of like being at blockchain conferences or being around groups of crypto people and they're just talking over each other's head. It's like, how smart can I make myself sound so that no one understands what I'm actually talking about? And I hate that crap. Like, I can't stand that. Like, I want to be able to have conversations with people, with my neighbors or my friends and be able to explain what this stuff is and they get it. So, but, NFT stands for non-fungible token. Bitcoin is what we call a fungible token. If I have a Bitcoin and you have a Bitcoin and you drop one on the ground and we get them confused and we take them back, which obviously is a situation that can't really happen, but they spin the exact same. The Monero people would tell you that's not quite true, but for the most part, that's true. When it comes to non-fungible tokens, these are NFTs. These are tokens that don't look the same. They don't all have the same properties. It allows you to create different kinds of art or collectibles or basically anything. I've got some shoes that live on the blockchain. There's all kinds of different use cases for this stuff. But the best way to think about it is NFTs are digital collectibles.
Yeah, and one of the most famous ones, CryptoPunks, is that one of the earlier NFTs. It was a collection of 10,000 pixelated faces, and just recently we've seen them go for obscene prices. I think the cheapest one that's listed right now is something like $60,000. We saw somebody go out and buy, I think it was 80 or 88 or something, CryptoPunks over the weekend in one shot, $5.5 million they spent. A lot of people that were on the fence on NFTs have said they're here to stay now. So just curious, CryptoBusy, do you guys hold or play with any NFTs? What's your take on NFTs? And, do you think this is a trend that's going to be around for years to come, or is this just kind of like a flash in the pan?
It's an interesting one. I mean, we personally don't really hold any NFTs. We played around with them. We've traded them in the past. There was the Super Street Fighter trend that went on for a while, and there were other kind of like pack openings. I mean, when I was 12 or whatever, I used to play with Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? So it's kind of like that almost resurfaced, and now we're seeing Pokemon cards that were rare back then going for up to like $1 million, right, for super rare ones. So I think it's something where we'll see this continue for a while. I do think it will go through cycles just like crypto, though. I think there'll be a couple of years where no one cares at all, and then I think suddenly in 5 years' time, someone will be like, "Yeah, I want to spend $1 million on whatever," right? And I think $90.5 million for an NFT, that's a bit steep, I think. Yeah, but I personally, if I had $90.5 million, I wouldn't be spending on an NFT. But each to their own. If you want a collectible, I guess that's a statement, then sure. I think it's cool to see NFTs in general, like you guys were saying, the ones that you have. I think it's cool to collect them, but would I spend that much money on it? Is it worth that much? Will you be able to resell it for much? That's all questions you really had to address. And I mean, who knows? This guy might be making a play. If he does buy it, if someone buys it, they might make it, they might flip it, right? You never know if it's just for keeping or whether it's going to be a flip item. So do I think it's going to be a trend for a long time? Sure. But I do think it will go through cycles. So I wouldn't say to people, go out and buy as many NFTs and believe that you can sell them for triple the price.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, there's a big difference between buying and collecting and holding something because you enjoy it, you think it's fun, you play the game, versus trying to day trade NFTs. I saw something over the weekend that was saying, like, if you're trying to day trade NFTs, you might have some success with it, just like you could do with sneakers or trading cards or any other thing, but they're very cyclical. I know Ben's talked about in the past when you're talking about sports memorabilia, whether it's helmets, signed things like that, like, it goes in waves. Jordan stuff comes and, you know, all the Jordan stuff selling like crazy, and that could be the same with NFT collections. Like, there's different collections that have different value for different reasons. So, but Arcane Bear, I wanted to hear your thought on this. Somebody in the chat's asking, like, they're saying NFTs are 100% in a bubble. These are all going to crash to zero. How do I short NFTs? And I don't know if there's a way to short all of them or if there's a way to do it at all, but what do you think about it being a bubble, or what's your take on NFTs as a asset?
Well, first off, I think understanding the art world and the collector's world outside of the NFT sector is extremely important.
Yeah.
There's a famous artist called Basquiat. I think his is the most expensive piece of art sold in US history for $170 million, bought by a guy that's a billionaire. Now, the billionaires, when they buy art pieces like that, they're usually not in a hurry to sell them. So these are usually illiquid products where someone can pay an extraordinarily high amount that for others they would never be or conceive of spending on an art piece. But the people that have that much money have a lot of extra money to play around with. So a $100 million art piece isn't out of the category. They're actually likely not going to sell it for generations. They're probably going to keep it within the family.
Well, they need that tax shelter.
Well, and they might just like the artist. They might like being a part of history. The same way owning a Basquiat is like a nostalgic piece. I think that we are probably underestimating the prevalence of AR or virtual reality. If you play around with Oculus Quest 2, you start to see the development of some of the potential of this technology and how light or built in it will likely become into our kind of day-to-day future. I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, I really liked Gary Vee's rant about it's you know, it doesn't have to be just because you don't collect sports cars and you don't like sports cards. Like there's a lot of people that like these different types of niche ideas, and whether you understand it or not is irrelevant of whether it has value to those people. Like I'm not a fan of football or soccer, but we invested into football and soccer NFTs because we were like, well, we know there's a huge fan base that's interested in driving the value around these particular items there. So I think often the thing is to kind of step outside of oneself and be like, well, what's interesting to other people? And people collect all sorts of crazy stuff. They collect China dishes still. So I don't see why it wouldn't leak over into the virtual reality world and actually hold a lot of provenance. Now, again, these are not super liquid items. You're not generally going to try to sell your $90 million art piece at the peak of a crisis. You probably have more capital to be buying more art pieces. And in terms of evaluating when I would try to acquire assets like that, it would be when everyone's running around in fear trying to buy toilet paper again. That's when I'll be buying CryptoPunks.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That was my next question. I was going to come to Wendy on her thoughts on NFTs and ask, like, how do you decide when to part with that ETH? Do you do it when prices are down, when prices are up? Like, when do you pull the trigger on something like that, in your opinion, or do you mess with NFTs at all?
I actually did purchase an NFT recently, and it's called Fame Lady Squad. And the reason why I decided to purchase this particular NFT is because 20% of some of the proceeds, I believe it's about $20,000, it goes to a charity that gives it directly to DV survivors. And anybody that knows me and follows me on my socials, I'm very into spreading awareness for those types of causes, because I am a survivor myself. But as far as NFTs go, right now what we're seeing an NFT mania, and there's different levels of NFTs, and I kind of want to break these down as quickly and concisely as possible. So right now we're seeing the super really expensive NFTs, very similar to what Arcane Bear said with when it comes to Basquiat art or Warhol art or whatever it is, the very rare stuff, the very pricey stuff, the very bougie stuff. And this is good because what these are doing, they're getting media's attention. It's getting published. Christie's is taking note. A lot of these really high-end places are publishing and talking about it. So we have that aspect going. So mainstream is hearing about it. But a part that a lot of people are missing out when it comes to NFTs is NFTs. Of course, we can use NFTs for healthcare and for real estate records, different things like that. But when it comes to a small musician or a small indie artist, or maybe just a kid that is on, maybe a 7-year-old kid that's on a soccer team that needs assistance to help pay for their training, or maybe even some of the kids at the boxing gym I'm trying to raise money for, NFTs allow a small town, village, or city person to have access, instead of maybe like 30 people, to have access to a global market. And to me, it is super, super cool to see a lot of these underdogs, to see a lot of these smaller sellers or whatever it is create these different art pieces and raise capital for themselves. And when you're able to tell a great story about yourself, or people know like, hey, if I buy this NFT, this $100 is going to support this kid or supporting this artist and whatnot. Not only are you able to increase your reach, to increase your audience, but you're actually able to really change the quality of life for somebody and kind of bypass these charities that are like, oh, we're going to give X amount of dollars to this charity in, Pomona, California, or in, New York City, whatever it is. You're able to bypass this stuff and give it actually to the people. So I really think that, yes, we are in NFT mania. We're seeing all this expensive stuff go off, but at the same time too, it's bringing awareness to a lot of the underdogs and the smaller people that really NFTs can help benefit.
Yeah, and it can, like you said, it conclude people into a global economy that they didn't have access to before. So it gives a lot of inclusion and exposure to some people that needed it. So yeah, you're right. That's a really good implementation. And then some other people had mentioned in the chat, you could use it for, like to a lot of times you see in those situations people raising money on other platforms like Kickstarter or I kept wanting to say Angie's List. There's an angel investing thing where people are doing that for charities and stuff where they donate for a cause. But then you got people setting up fake causes, and there's no way to guarantee, like so-and-so is trying to raise money for a funeral, and then you find out later, oh, that was all just fake, and they just got people's money for no reason. You could use somebody could create their own NFT and actually have the ownership of it, make sure you're donating it to the right place. So there's a lot of interesting implementations, and that was something I was going to ask Ben about. Like, in your opinion, do you think we're anywhere close to what NFTs are going to look like years down the road, or you think we're just scratching? Like we heard the obvious ones mentioned: art, collectibles, maybe some music, musicians, artists, some of that kind of stuff. But what do you think? And then Arcane Bear, I think, mentioned a really big one, which is going to be the AR implementation of all of this stuff. But where do you think we're going to be at 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road? Do you think there's going to be stuff we're not even thinking of right now that's going to be used for the NFTs, or they'll just be gone?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about Ethereum and DeFi, I mean, when Ethereum first came out, like nobody was really thinking about flash loans. I mean, nobody was really thinking about collateralized lending, but here we are. We have all these things, all these things that make up the decentralized finance sector. And that's just one small piece. I mean, when Bitcoin was invented, nobody said, oh my gosh, one day we'll have, digital Pokemon cards on the blockchain. Like nobody said that. So yeah, I mean, if we look 7, 8 years out, nobody can imagine what this is going to look like. I mean, I compare NFTs in a lot of ways, and just with I'm going to do 2 parts here. Like right now, what I'm talking about is the digital merchandise, the digital products, the digital collectibles, the art, all that stuff. I think this is very akin to when the first printed T-shirt came out. Like whoever came up with the idea, like I'm going to throw my logo on a shirt and then I'm going to sell it, and those people are going to walk around and advertise for me all the time. They're going to pay me to advertise my brand. Yep. Whoever came up with that was a genius. And you know what it did? It totally changed the way people buy things and companies sell things. And I think we're going to see the same kind of revolution with these digital collectibles. Like you're going to see, online retailers offering more digital products than physical products. Everybody wants to move away from the physical and towards the digital. So this is going to be like really big. It's going to revolutionize things. But the part of your question I find very interesting is, what does all this look like? Because when I explain what NFTs are, I say digital collectibles, right? But they're actually so much bigger than that. Yep. But for the common person, that's the only thing I can relate to them right now without talking over their head, basically. Anything that you can own that's going to be individualized for you, whether it's a deed to a house, real estate, whether it's an insurance policy, all of this stuff is eventually going to be on the blockchain, and NFTs solve a lot of the problems around that, where you own something that's individualized for your policy or your purchase or whatever it might be. We are just scratching the surface on what NFTs are going to be in the future. And I think the term NFTs, it's just like it's a broad stroke. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're only thinking art, we're only thinking collectibles, but it covers so much more than that. So those are just some of the things that come across very easy to think of, but it's all the really cool stuff that we can't imagine right now and can't think of. They're going to be the true innovations that are going to change our lives, I think.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's all the new stuff, all the stuff we haven't thought about yet that's really going to develop things. And we have somebody here in the chat saying like they want to be able to sell their old Steam games that they don't want anymore. Like if that was an NFT where you bought it, you actually owned it yourself, the digital download, you paid money for this. You don't want it anymore. You want to sell it to your buddy for half price, whatever price you want. You should be able to do that, but you can't. So I think gaming and games will be a big factor for it. Being able to maybe to move assets, digital assets from one game into another game, I think would be a really interesting implementation. And then, just like you said, anything you own digitally, you can interact with in the real world. Go ahead, Tio.
Your love. Your love.
Yeah, my love. The TJ NFT.
I did have somebody reach out to me and say, by the way, I'm sorry, Arcane Bear. I have to say this.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And then
I'm a fan of that.
I just want to say, like, while we've been on the show, I got this really nice LinkedIn message from this young lady. And she's an engineer. She's really cool. She loves the show, been very supportive.
Engineer.
And at the very end of it, she said, P.S. tell TJ I will buy his love.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll have to get on that.
People
NFT
are real
then.
big. People want your love, TJ. They want you to sell it.
Well,
I'm sorry, Arcane Bear. Yeah, please go ahead.
Let's go. Let's get back to some actual good information here. I'm sure it's great.
I don't want to block the NFT of TJ's love here.
Somebody needs to.
No, well, when you're bringing these ideas up, we've seen lots of artists not just use their music, but almost like a ticket to their show, like unique forms of entry. Gary Vee did it as well. You could use it for his conference. So, and you see older remnants of stuff like that too. You'd go visit the 1986 Expo and you'd get a pin or a jacket. These kind of nostalgic pieces of visiting, like say you went to your favorite musician's show, that the ticket was actually part of the NFT, or the non-fungible or non-divisible idea that there's just this one version of this kind. Like Ben said too, the ideas of like owning a car, your VIN number, these are all kind of analog versions of what we were using for NFTs up to this point, or as you had mentioned there, like a software key for the game that you're trying to use. These are the older analog versions of what an NFT I think really was. We have physical representations of them still.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to kind of add really quick, TJ, was, okay, we talked about Jack Dorsey acquiring Afterpay. And then Ben kind of talked about people, putting shoes on credit because they need to have it now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to save up. And to each to their own, that's fine. But this generation is so like, I have to buy, I have to have it now. We need instant gratification. And that's partially due to social media at our fingertips, whatever, fine. But with NFTs, you can literally buy something and have ownership right away. And you know that you own it. You know that it's if it doesn't come in the mail, you can call the company and be like, hey, I ordered this fanny pack or these pair of shoes and I have the certificate, they're mine, where are they? Like, you can prove ownership with different ways with NFTs. So I feel like NFTs kind of go along with this generation as far as instant gratification.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And with this generation of living in the digital world, the digital mindset, this generation spends as much time in the digital world as they do in the physical world. So being able to represent themselves in a way they feel comfortable with digitally is very important, I would say, to this generation for sure. So, but all right, it looks like that's all we have time. Oh, we've got a tie. So, I don't know if we should do a lightning round or let's just give it to Arcane Bear. I like him better anyway. So. No, that's all we have time for today. It was a really good show. Just want to really thank all the guests for joining us here today. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the link is in the description to all of their channels. Be sure to go check them out. But real quick, Arcane Bear, you got 30 seconds. Give us your parting message. Oh, we lost his audio. Did he mute himself?
Okay, there we go. Big
there you go.
Having me on the channel again today. I appreciate that. Big support to Wendy, Ben, CryptoBusy, yourself, TJ. We just started our new kind of free newsletter, which we're going to be producing. So if you guys wanted, you could go to Arcane Bear if you want to support us in a new way, because it gets crazy in the digital age. And I'm glad you are back online, Ben, because I was a little bit worried. But you can go to Arcane Bear. Shout out to Ben and the BitBoy team coming back online. It's always weird when YouTube does stuff like that. So it's good to see the rally cries of the Twitter sphere helped out. And yeah, thumbs up to the content. Thank you to all you always for such great conversations. I have a blast here, and I look forward to every time we do these chats.
Yeah, this is always a lot of fun. We love having you on there. Thanks to CryptoBusy, CryptoWendyO, Arcane Bear, and Ben, as always. We will see you guys tomorrow, Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That's all we have today. TJ out.